Warahmatullah. First, I just want to make sure that I'm within the frame of the. Do I fit? Yes. Okay, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. They just took us to dinner, akhi, so I gained a little bit more weight. Inshallah Rabbil Alameen. Or actually, before I start talking about the subject of the topic of the lecture for tonight, let me just say Jazakumullah khair for hosting me for this night. Jazakumullah khair for inviting me, and Jazakumullah khair for coming. This is my second visit to your masjid. My last visit was I came during the night, I guess, so I didn't see all of these nice hills and mountains that you have in this area. Today I got to see them, alhamdulillah. Now, what is it? Now, the original topic of the lecture of tonight was about the Trump administration and the Palestinian issue and our role as a Muslim community in the United States. But I understand also that we have so many developments since this president or Trump became a president 2 weeks ago. I know that there are new developments that maybe every one of us need also to discuss as well. I understand that the political climate is not very positive, is not very encouraging. Also, I understand that many of us, mainly Muslims in the United States, are very anxious and worried when it comes to the recent developments and the recent executive orders that we've seen, the series of executive orders that now got to the point where we have effectively a ban on Muslims. I know they call it a ban on 7 nations, not Muslims, predominantly Muslims. But they're saying it's not on Muslims, although Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York, a man who's known for his undiplomatic tone, when he went on Fox News, he was very clear about it, that Trump called him and he told him, well, I want to be faithful to my pledge during the campaign when he pledged to ban Muslims, but find me a more acceptable language. So Giuliani, the one who wrote the language of the executive order, was very candid about it, that it is a ban on Muslims. So I totally understand that we as a Muslim community are anxious, and we as a Muslim community, we're worried and we don't know what's coming next. But you know, brothers and sisters, one thing I think every one of us should believe in, and that is with challenges, opportunities come. We have so many challenges, and this is the time to meet these challenges. In fact, the human discourse throughout history, or man's discourse throughout history, is about this formula, this equation of challenges and opportunities. Or, as Mark Twain put it, the great historian, he said there are challenges, and with the challenges, there is a response. And the way you respond to the challenge is what determines your next discourse and your future. Not only as individuals, in fact, he applied this formula, this equation, the challenge and the response, التحدي والاستجابة, he applied it to the civilizations, to the rise and demise of civilizations. And he said, there is no civilization, there is no nation, there is no group of people, there is no human being, there is no individual that will not face challenges in his life or her life, or challenges collectively. Every nation, every individual will face challenges. But how do we respond to them? The way you respond is what's going to determine your future and the future of our ummah, or the future, in this case, of our community in the United States, and the future of this country as well. So now we're seeing the challenges that are being directed at us. But we're also seeing the response that is coming from within the society itself. If you ask those people who took into the streets, if you ask them, do you even know who the Muslims are? Do you even know a Syrian, an Irani, a Yemeni, an Iraqi? I bet you that the overwhelming majority of them will tell you, no, I don't. Do you love them or hate them? I don't know them to love them and hate them. So why you're taken into the streets protesting this ban? And that's where you will get the answer. It is about a value. It is about a value. What we're seeing today is a struggle over America, not only in America today. This is a struggle. What America do we want? So those who are taking into the streets and those who are voicing their concerns and voicing their opposition to these un-American values and inhumane values that this administration is trying to impose on us, they're doing it because they believe in a different America. So I would say yes, maybe this administration presented the challenge, but we are seeing a response, and with the response we are seeing, or we should see, the opportunities that are arising now. And that's a very important thing that every one of us need to understand. If you look at the history of mankind, as I said before, we will discover and we will come to know that, the challenges that are being directed, or, that we're being faced with, are not unique to us. In fact, they're not unique to Muslims. They're not limited to our time. We've seen it before. And you don't have to be a Muslim, a faithful, or to be a man of faith, or to be a believer, to be challenged. Every human being will be challenged. Again, how do you deal with it? This is the story of mankind. The best way is to stand up, to rise up, and to face these challenges. Withdrawing inward is not the answer. Continuing to talk to one another, although very important, because yes, I'm not a believer in this notion that we shouldn't be preaching to the choir. I don't want to also lose my base. I don't want to lose my brothers and sisters. I don't want to lose my community. No, we have to continue to speak to one another. Because at the end of the day, it is us, the community, the Muslims. We need to keep and to maintain this relationship, but one does not negate the other. Preaching to the choir does not mean that we don't go outside. It does not mean that we don't go outside of our comfort zone. It does not mean that we engage the rest of the society that we live in. It does not mean that we isolate ourselves. So no, we should continue to talk to one another, but not to withdraw inward. In fact, to capitalize on this energy, this anxiety that we find within the community, and take it outside, and to be engaged positively. If you look at what's happening today, you will clearly see that the target are not as it was under the Bush Jr. and under Obama. The target were at the time were the activists, the religious people. So if you're an activist, oh, this guy is a trouble, stay away from him. I myself heard it many times. I myself had friends coming from overseas, and if I get to see them, or after they leave and I see them overseas, and I've heard it very often, they told me not to call you. Oh, because you're under scrutiny, you're monitored. So they created this perception under the previous two administrations at least, that stay away from these activist people, stay away from CARE, stay away from MAS, stay away from AMP, stay away from ICNA, stay away from activism. Although this is not the history of this country, this is not one of the values of this country. This is a country where you need to be active. This is a country where you need to stand up for your rights and to stand up to oppression. But unfortunately, they're banking that this community is coming, from backgrounds or from countries, in the case of the immigrants like ourselves, well, some of us, let me say. Of course, Brother Bassam is not an immigrant here. Yeah, you're not, Akhi. Okay, and they're banking, okay, these people will be scared to death because it's political. Stay away from politics. That's how we were raised. Stay away from politics. So we come to the United States where you have the First Amendment, where being engaged is the norm, and they're telling us, no, but you're different. Stay away from politics because you have so many bad issues. Because our president, I think both of our English are at the same level, me and Mr. Trump. He uses, that's not me saying this actually, this was an article in the New York Times, and they said, this guy who analyzed his language, the dialogue, discourse and the vocabulary that he uses, they said he's at the third grade dialogue that he uses. Bush, alhamdulillah, was much better at fifth grade. So alhamdulillah, I'm in between, fourth grade. That's alhamdulillah something good. So you're bad. Stay away from it. Kashmir, don't touch. Somalia, don't talk about. Iraq, ISIS came from there. But we didn't go there. ISIS wasn't there until we went there. Palestine, that's the untouchable. Stay away from it. Palestine is a problem. Doesn't work this way. Now, under the Trump administration, it is not the activist and the religious. Actually, he's coming with a blanket. Every Muslim is a problem. A ban on Muslims, according to his discourse, according to his pledges when he was running for office. You have a National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, who calls Islam a cancer, an ideology, not a religion. So now everyone becomes a target. And when we see these people who are taking into the streets, the majority of which are not Muslims, remember, it's not because they know us, it's not because they love us, it's not because they hate us. It is because they stand for something they believe in. In fact, this is our religion. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. That's what Allah Azza wa Jal tells us. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْمِيزَانَ لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. That Allah sent all of the prophets with the book and the balance and with proofs in order for mankind to do what? In order for man to stand for what? To accomplish what? To implement what? Justice. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. That's the mission of mankind. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. Now, before I enter into my topic, I know this is a lengthy introduction, so you can stop me at any minute. Do you want to stop me? No? No, you can, akhi, wallah. We're still in a democracy, at least in your masjid. It's not a liberal democracy anymore, but it's a democracy. Now, brothers and sisters, there is one thing that we need to be very careful with, and that is not to conflate, to mix, and to confuse the efforts with the results. Meaning, many of us, many people, I'm not talking about only Muslims, they forecast and they predict failure. So they plan accordingly, or they don't plan because they already forecasted and predicted failure. So there is no way that we can stand up to Islamophobia. Oh, it's bankrolled by $120 million a year. Do you expect us to be able to stand up to this wave, to this industry? No, we can't. Oh, there is no way that we can have a good school. There is no way that we can institutionalize and, project our beliefs. There is no way that we can become influential in this country. There is no way that we can become accepted. There is no way that we can have a say. So once you have that mentality, once you have that conviction, you get to the point where you already predicted and forecasted failure, so you don't plan. Now, when we go back to the Quran, when we go back to our religion, what Allah Azza wa Jal is teaching us, clearly teaching us, is that we are responsible for what? For our efforts. We're not responsible for the outcome, for the results. We're not. We're only responsible for our efforts. You do what you're supposed to do, and the best that you can do, not only your efforts, it has to be in terms, to be the best efforts in terms of time and quality, and then you leave the rest with Allah Azza wa Jal. In fact, when we read in the Quran, if you read the example and the story, the example of every single prophet in the Quran, you'll find that Allah Azza wa Jal did not give a single prophet the right to withdraw or to decide unilaterally that I'm not going to continue my da'wah because I have hit a wall. I came to a conclusion that these people will not believe. So I'm done with them. None of the prophets was given that permission. They had to continue to make da'wah, to call for the way of Allah until Allah tells them it's over. It's not up to the prophets. It wasn't up to them. We have one exception. Surah Yunus. He got to the point where he couldn't take it anymore. Allah told him, warn them of a severe punishment that is going to afflict them in 3 days. So he warned them. They mocked him more. They hurt him more. They got him to the point where he couldn't take it anymore. And he left in rage. We know the story, right? It's not an entertainment. He boarded the ship. It came in the middle of a violent storm. Now, it's a long story. To make a long story short, he jumps off board. He is swallowed by a whale. Long story. Then he naja rabbahu. He supplicated to Allah. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. He admits a mistake. Allah forgave him. He was saved. But the issue that he did admit a mistake. If the Quran is not about entertainment, if Allah forgave him, why the story was registered in the Quran? To judge him? Who are we to judge Yunus alayhi salam? The Prophet says, لا يقولن أحدكم أنا خير من يونس بن متى. No one of you should say that. He was addressing his companions, and by extension every one of us here. No one of you should say, I am better than Yunus ibn Matta, the Prophet, because none of us is better than him. If he couldn't take it, none of us could have took it. But what we learn from that story, what was the mistake that he admitted? It is that he decided on his own that he's done. But what happened, the rest of the story, is that after he left, his people recognized that they have committed a grave mistake. So what they do? They gather themselves. Everybody, they take even their carols with them. They go to the mountains and they supplicate to Allah, and Allah forgives them. And guess what? Yunus was sent back to them. فلولا قرية آمنت فنفعها إيمان وإلا قوم يونس لما آمنوا كشفنا عنهم عذاب الخزي. He was sent back to the same people. What does this tell us? That Allah did not ask of any prophet to guarantee the outcome of his efforts. Actually, he said to them, إِنَّمَا عَلَيْكَ الْبَلَاغِ. Your mission of prophet is to proclaim the mission, the message. وَعَلَيْنَا الْحِسَابِ. When the Prophet ﷺ used to grieve himself over the rejection of his people, Allah told him, فَلَا تَذَبْ نَفْسُكَ عَلَيْهِمْ حَسَرَاتٍ. It's not your business they believe or not. لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُسَيْطِرٍ. You have no control over them, whether they believe or not. What Allah is telling us in the Quran is that worry more about your efforts. Because when you stand before Him in the day of judgment, you're not going to be asked, I'm not going to be asked, none of us is going to be asked about how much the proponents of evil invested in evil and wickedness. But Allah will ask every one of us, what did you do in terms of goodness? How much did you invest in terms of goodness? None of us will have the argument or will be given the right to argue that, oh Allah, I didn't think that I can stand up to $120 million that bankrolls Islamophobia in the United States. But Allah will ask us, how much did you do within your capacity? And our capacity, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, does not equal zero. Many people tend to equate their capacity to zero. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها يا أخي. That's what Allah says. Allah will not burden any soul or any individual beyond his or her capacity. But our capacity is not zero, and I will tell you why. When Musa was chased, alayhi salatu wasalam, with his people, and when they were caught between the sea and the Pharaoh and his soldiers, the children of Israel told them, Inna la mudrakun, it is over. We're going to be overtaken. It's done. It's going to be a massacre. It's a slaughter. We have our kids, we have our wives, we have our children. You know, there is no way we can fight an army that is armed to the teeth. But what does Musa tell them? كَلَّا إِنَّ مَعِي رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينَ. By no means Allah, my Lord, is with me and He's going to guide me. Do you really believe that Musa knew how Allah is going to guide him, how He's going to save them? No, he didn't. But by inspiration, فَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِ أَنْ اضْرِبْ بِعَصَاكَ الْبَحْرَ. Right? We know the story. Is it an entertainment? It's a funny story, like something that makes us, oh, wow, suspense. It's not. اضْرِبْ بِعَصَاكَ الْبَحْرَ. Hit the sea with your staff or rod. Okay, he does. It opens, it breaks in half, they cross into safety. We know the story, right? They try to follow them, the water come back, they're drowned to death. We know the story. Is it an entertainment again? There is a reason why we're reading it in the Quran. And my question to every one of us, who do you think really caused the sea to break in half? Whose power? Allah, right? So it wasn't Musa's staff, alayhi salatu wassalam. If you believe it's the staff, I will tell you where it is. Did anyone visit Istanbul? Did you go to Qasr al-Khilafah? Tubagha, something, I don't know how they pronounce it. Did you visit it? Do you see the sword of the Prophet, the dress of Fatima, the hair of the Prophet, and the claimed arm of Zakaria? Okay. And there is the staff of Musa. And you can break the glass. Before the police arrest you, you have the staff. If you believe that it possesses any power, you don't have to worry about it. Because you will have the power. But it wasn't the staff, right? What was it? The power of whom? Why did Allah require Musa to hit the sea with his rod? If it wasn't the staff? Huh? Effort. So Allah did not need Musa's staff to translate his power, right? But Allah is teaching us a lesson. Worry about your efforts, even when you tend to think that your effort equals zero. Nuh stayed with his people, alayhi salatu wasalam, 950 years. Until, it wasn't over until Allah told him, إِنَّهُ لَيُؤْمِنَ مَعَكَ إِلَّا مَنْ آمَنَ. Until Allah told him it's over. And how many believed in him? The Quran said, وَمَا مَعُوا إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. Very few believed in him. They all fit in one, in one ark, the ship. It wasn't the USS something. With the animals that existed at the time. I don't know if they were dinosaurs at the time, or maybe it predates the time of Nuh alayhi salam. It doesn't matter now. But you know what? Allah graded him with what? Did He give him an F? After 950 years, very few believed in him, including his own son and his own wife did not believe in him. How did Allah grade him? He's the first of only 5 of al-Azm, the most determined prophets to be mentioned in the Quran. Why am I saying all of this? Because brothers and sisters, again, this is a time, this is a new climate, this is a new environment, this is a new period that we're living in the United States, and this is the time when we are presented with this challenge. It is the time for us to rise up, and this is the time for us to start planning, and this is the time for us to start strategizing, and this is the time to adhere not only to our faith, but to our faith and then to our rights. This is the time. If we're not going to do that, then we're not only betraying our own selves and our own kids, but we're also betraying the country that we chose. For many of us, we chose to be our homeland. We chose to be this country to be the place that we live in, the place that we love. So it's a betrayal for everybody. The ones who sacrificed before us got us so far. If you think that we're the first people to sacrifice in this country, ask the indigenous people, not the Indian Americans, the indigenous. I don't know what the name of their tribes, and that's very unfortunate that we don't know the name of their tribes. Ask the African Americans, ask the Chinese, ask the Japanese, ask the Jews who were denied entry during the 1930s and during the Holocaust into this country. Ask the Italian, and ask the Catholic, and ask the Irish. They all have sacrificed but worked from and struggled from within the system until they got us so far. It is our turn. It is our turn. It's another dark chapter, but again, with a challenge comes what? An opportunity. Now, getting to Philistine. You know, I don't believe that Philistine is disconnected or isolated from this overview that I just gave you. And let me tell you why. It's not because it's Islamic, it's because Kashmir is Islamic. Iraq is Islamic. Every cause of justice is Islamic. Whether Muslims or not Muslims, it is Islamic. Our religion is about what? Stand for justice. It's not only because it's the right thing to do. It's not only because it is a just cause, but also because it relates to every one of us here. Remember when I said this Islamophobia is bankrolled by $120 million a year, according to CARES Berkeley's and the Center for American Progress studies. They had 3 studies that says that every year they pour in tens of millions of dollars in this industry, Islamophobia, where you have now experts on terrorism and radicalism. Tens of millions of dollars. People are making career of this, making living of this. You know, according to these studies, a lot of this money, a big percentage of this money that is fueling Islamophobia comes from Zionist organizations who wants to hinder the progress of the Muslim community in the United States, who wants the Muslim community to be always at the receiving end, to be always questioning their integration, their affiliation with this country, who want them always to be on the margin or on the margins, who are not integrated positively. And when I talk about integration, no one tells you in this country, we're not France. No one tells you in this country that you have to give up your identity, your background. No one tells you that. This is what makes, or one of the things that makes this country great. So they want the Muslim community to be always on the defensive. And we should not accept that. And it's not only because of that. Also remember, the United States is the world superpower, right? The United States is involved in East, I don't know what, Asia, in South Asia. The United States wants to dictate to China when it comes to the South and East China's sea. We want to dictate to them what you can do there and what you can do there. It's not that I'm in favor of an emerging China and an China that is trying to establish hegemony over that sphere of the world. It's not about that. It's about that if we do not accept any nation to come and dictate to us in our hemisphere, we shouldn't be dictating to others. But the United States is dictating there. The United States is dictating in the Arab world. The United States is dictating in Europe. The United States is dictating in Africa. So the United States, because it is this superpower, it is the most powerful state on the face of the earth, is involved in all over the world. So that makes the issues overseas domestic issues. And because the United States is a regional and sometimes a local domestic player in many parts of the world, That makes these issues our issues. We did not choose to go and invade Iraq and to bring Iraq to be an issue for us here. It wasn't our call. It wasn't our call. We didn't ask that the United States become, quote unquote, the honest broker in the Middle East so-called peace process. It is the United States that chose to do so, the policymakers. So whether we like it or not, these issues are becoming domestic. And Palestine is one of them, as many other issues. So now, brothers and sisters, we're faced with this. Whether we like it or not, you have to deal with the issue of Palestine as you have to deal with so many issues. Did we issue this ban on the Syrians? Did you see these studies from the, I forgot the name of this think tank, the no, it's something like Cato, I think, something. Cato Institute. They just came with a study that they gave a very, 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 very small, very negligible, very marginal percentage that a terrorist attack be carried by a refugee from these 7 states. In fact, it's more likely that one of us might be hit with a lightning than being killed by an attack by one of these individuals who brought here as refugees. So it wasn't our call too, it was the call of the policymakers that made these issues domestic. Many people didn't even know where Yemen exists here in the United States. Many people don't know where Libya is on the map. But now it became their issue here because we have an administration that it says it is an issue. So these issues become domestic by the mere fact that the United States is a superpower. By this very simple fact that it comes here. And as I said, Palestine is one of them. Now, I'm not going to give you a historical background on the American approach or policy towards the issue of Palestine/Israel. Let's get to the point where we're at now. Now we have a new administration with a new president, a president who's not well versed in international relations, not well versed in foreign policy, a president who was in fact not even well versed with American politics. And he considered that to be one of his strengths. He's running against the Washington establishment. This is a man who many people thought he's going to be better for Palestine than Hillary Clinton. Now let me tell you, Hillary Clinton was a bad candidate for the issue of Palestine if you will only judge her by the issue of Palestine. So many people, when Trump said he will be neutral, if you remember, it was sometime back in February 2015, when there was a huge backlash against him when he said it in one of the debates. He said, I will be neutral. I want to be the man who brings about peace between the two parties. Many people were cheering for him. Oh, look, this is the man. This is the man that we want. And then he followed up with another statement. I don't think Israel wants peace. I don't think they know what they want. That's what Trump said. So people were saying, again, this is the man. He's not beholden to the Jewish law.